Okay, hi everyone.
Hi there.
Hi. So first of all, welcome. And if you can tell us if you can hear us and see us, there is a small delay.
Hi everyone. Hi there.
Hi. So we have some. I think we need to close some.
That might be from my side.
Okay. Yeah, I think so because I don't have anything here.
I had to look back on my side. No worries.
Okay, so we are live. I can see the presentation, and we can get started. So hi everyone, welcome to this live session. This is Luca, and I'm here with Cédric. And as I said, please let us know if in the chat you can hear us. You can also tell us where you are right now. It's always nice to know. So I'm in France near Lyon. And Cédric?
I'm based in Palma de Mallorca in the Balearic Island in Spain.
Okay, great. So we are very happy to be here. So it's the first YouTube live that we host. So this live should last about 60 minutes. It's a question and answer session. And we already received some emails so we'll answer them first, but feel free to add your question in the chat box. So we have 1 hour to answer. And so let's have fun and we will do our best to send you a lot of good vibes, a lot of motivation to get started on the right foot in 2022. So first of all, let's introduce ourselves. Sorry, okay, I have the presentation now, it's okay. We like to say with Cédric and the other members of our team that, of course, languages are our job with MosaLingua, but above all, they are a big passion for us. So I've been learning languages for 18 years. Teaching languages with MosaLingua for 10, 11 years. I taught myself 6 languages, so I can say that I really love languages, everything related to languages. So that's why I'm very happy to be here with you tonight to speak about learning languages. Cédric, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Yes, of course, Luca. I'm Cédric, and me too. I'm a language lover. I've been learning languages since like a long time, and I also love traveling. And that was the reason that I got really into languages, and that's something I've done on my own most of the time. And that was just a hobby of mine until I joined MosaLingua, when I realized that I could also work with languages and share my passion with a lot of people. So yeah, that's basically me in a nutshell.
Okay, great. Let's move on with the presentation. Okay, so we will start with the first question. So as I said, we received some question by email, and the first question is, so I want to learn a new language. How do I get started? Okay, so I'll let Cédric answer as we agreed.
Yes, sure, no problem. It's true that it's a very recurrent question, and I think anyone that wants to learn language will face this question very soon. How do I get started learning a language? So the first thing is, what is learning a language? It's very important at the beginning to know what you want to do. What is your goal? Because learning a language is very vague. What is it you want to achieve? So is it something that you want to do for your work, or is it something that you want to do because you're into traveling, or because there is a special someone that requires you to speak this language? It could be many reasons. So the first thing you need to make sure, in order to get the motivation to go forward, is to say, why do I want to learn this language? And so like it can be a lot of things, but most of us, we want to speak the language to a certain level. For some of us, it's more like to understand movies, or to be able to work in a language. So you have to highlight, to identify the skills that you want to practice. So do you want to speak? Do you want to understand? Do you want to read? Or maybe you want to write? That's something that you want to write down, first of all, so that you can actually focus on this specific skill. So that's the first thing that you need to ideally write down somewhere so that you always have that in mind. The second thing that you want to work on is basically a plan. How am I going to learn? So for this, you can also identify some activities that you can follow. Again, I would strongly advise to write these down. So the activities can be, well, there are numerous of the activities out there, but like the cornerstone, like the most important thing that you want to focus on is accumulate vocabulary. You need to learn words and sentences. So that should be like the main activity, the central activity of your language learning. Then obviously, based on the objective that you defined, then you will probably want to go towards for example, speaking activities. We'll get to that later. I'm pretty sure that we'll have questions for that. And if you want to do that, you would probably want to speak from day one and start little communications with some natives. We'll talk about that later, how to do that. If you want to improve your understanding, you also would want to basically watch movies or YouTube videos on YouTube, things like this that will improve your skills. So overall, you need to make a list of the activities that you want to do and get a plan, how you plan your week. Basically, like that day I will do this, that day I will do that, and have a bit of a plan. Also very important, you have to have goals like set in time. So like you say, for example, not saying like I want to be fluent in 3 months, but saying like I want to be able to have this kind of conversation in 3 months, or maybe I want to know that much words in that much time. That is very important. So there is this aspect of planning is very important. So again, I insist, you have to do that from the beginning. So like the first thing was like define your goal. The second thing is having a plan. The third things that would want to add is a little bit, it's kind of hard to define. It's basically to change your mindset. So a lot of us are basically not confident. They feel like, oh, I'm bad at languages. No, you're not. No one is bad at languages. That is something that like we cultivate. It's a kind of negative thinking that we have to change. Everything that you want to do in your life, if you start with the idea that you cannot do it, it won't happen. So you have to cultivate, it won't happen obviously overnight, but you have to cultivate this positive thinking, saying that like, if lots of people did it, you can do it yourself. We all learned our mother tongue, so anyone can do it. It's as simple as that. So that's like really how you have to get started. So get a goal, get a plan, and change your mindset. If you do that, that's basically like most of the thing that you have to do to get started, and you're good to go. That's basically like how I would define that, answer that question. But maybe Luca has something to say about this.
Yeah, maybe I can just add, what you can do every day, because sometimes I know that it's a question that many people have. So what should I do every day to get started? Especially for beginners, it can be quite hard, because self-learning is really the most powerful way of learning a language, because you need to teach yourself the language. But what you have to do every day, and I like to separate the essential activities like learning vocabulary, learning words and phrases every day. So I think 10 minutes of vocabulary learning is really essential. And then if you have more time, especially during the weekdays, the days of the week, you can add some listening activities, And yeah, basically that's for beginners. So a lot of listening activities, so you can get used to the sounds of the language, of your target language, the accent, the intonation, the musicality of the language. And then later on, especially, or maybe during the weekends when you have more time, you can even add some readings of articles and things like that. So essential activities and then complementary activities like reading and listening for the first, I would say, for the first couple of months. So just to have like a daily program to follow every day. Okay, maybe we can go to the second. I don't know if you want to add something else, Cédric?
Yeah, well, yes, I see that there is a few questions. I can see a few of them in the chat room, and it's related about the languages. So the languages that we offer at MosaLingua. So yeah, like regarding Norwegian and also Polish, that is something that obviously we have in mind. Well, especially Polish, because there's there's quite a few. I had a look once, and I could see some parallel with Russian. That's a language that I find very interesting. So maybe in the future we will have it. At the moment, we have mind set on other things. So we have a poll. So that's our next project. So feel free to vote in the poll. You will see it above. You can vote for the next language that we can add. And otherwise, well, that's always something that we like to do to add other languages. And we'll consider, obviously, Norwegian, Polish, and other things. And yeah, like I think from that, do we have like other question that we received previous to this live? I think we have other, right?
Yeah. So let's more. So I just wanted to add that, as you can see in the poll, we already shortlisted 3 languages, where 2 are sure, like Japanese and Arabic, and then there is also Dutch. So feel free to vote, as Cédric said, and for sure these are, you know, among the next languages that we would like to add. But we can move on, like you said, with the second question.
And just one thing about I think we received a lot of questions about motivation. So for Valerie and Karima, we'll get to it.
Yeah, because it's also one of the questions we received by Elena. So how long does it take to learn a language? That's an interesting one. So I think that it really depends on different aspects. So first of all, the first question that you need to ask yourself is, what level do you want to reach? So, you know, it's one thing if you want to reach a beginner level, then a completely different thing if you want to reach an intermediate or advanced level. So this is the first question. What level do you want to reach? I would say that if you want to reach a conversational level, which is a level where you can manage, you can get by in a foreign language, you know, when you're traveling, for a language which is not too far from your native language, you can become conversational after 3 months. Okay, so that's why the second question, which is very important, is how far from your native language is the target language. This is very important because, for example, I'm an Italian native speaker. I fluently speak French. So of course, for me, it's going to be very easy to learn Portuguese. So it's been very, very easy to learn Portuguese or Spanish. It's very, very close. Of course, it will take less time. If I want to learn Chinese, Mandarin Chinese or Japanese, well, it's completely different because these languages are very, very far from the languages I speak and from my native language. Another question, which is very important, is how much time do you have to study? Because there is also a matter of intensity. You know, you can study 20 minutes per day or 1 hour, 2 hours per day. We do not recommend to study too much every day, but of course, if you have a lot of time, you can reduce the time you need to learn a language. And then it's also a matter of motivation, because if you're really motivated, if you really if you're really in love with the languages. We were speaking a couple of weeks ago with Cédric that he really liked Japanese, and in the past he was learning Japanese because he really loved the language. So of course he put a lot of hours into the study of language, and in a quite short time frame, he succeeded in reaching quite a good level, no, Cédric? We can say so. A decent level in Japanese, which is a hard language. And so this is a very important thing. And if I go back to the how close far from your native language is the target language, there is a very famous ranking made by the Department of the United States. I will give you the link in the chat. Let me find it because I opened it. Just a second. I will put that in the chat. So basically, the most important criterion for in this ranking is how close is the language. So for example, for English native speakers, they say that you need between 600 and 750 hours for Italian, Spanish, French, and Dutch, which are quite close to English. For German, it's 900 hours, German and Indonesian, and then it goes until approximately 2,000 hours for Japanese and Mandarin Chinese. So it's interesting to have like as a reference, because you can see that there is a lot of difference depending on the language you're choosing. So I think I gave a very long answer to this short question. I don't know if you want to add something, Cédric.
Yes, I would like to add a little details, because obviously we probably have seen some people who seem to have a gift for languages because they speak many of them. And I trying to say something.
Sorry?
Oh, I thought like, okay, no, sorry about that. I saw, I got a bit confused with the difference between, like there's the lag between the image. Sorry about that. So yeah, the only thing I would say is like sometimes you see people who have a gift for languages and they speak a few of them, and it seems so easy for them to pick up a language so quickly. And that's normal because you have experience once you learn a language, and then you go for a second one and a third one. As you add languages to your skills, you'll find it's quicker to learn languages because you already have learned the method. So you're just reproducing what you've learned with your first language to other ones. So obviously, if you learned more languages, if you already learned a few languages, it'll be quicker for you to pick up a new one. If it's your first one, obviously you will have time to you will require some time to get the method, to learn how to learn. So that's the reason why you might see that for some people it's quicker, but it's normal. So like the guideline that we gave you is usually for people who start with their first language. That's the only thing I wanted to say.
Okay, yeah, but it's a very important precision because it really depends. Okay, so we can go to the next question. So I think I need to click. Okay. So I can understand a lot, but I feel helpless when I have to talk. What can I do? That's for you, Cédric.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah. That's because I can totally understand that, because well, you were mentioning Japanese, and I felt the same thing with Japanese at the beginning, because I was obviously very immersed in the Japanese culture. And well, I must confess that I'm a bit of a geek and I like my anime, and that's how I've learned to somehow to pick up a lot of Japanese. But when it came to when I eventually met my first Japanese, I just couldn't repeat what I heard, you know, and that's totally normal. There are two different skills. So first of all, you know, there's a big question of your mindset. So you think that you know the language, but your mouth is not used to that. There's a lot of automatism that you need to build up. And the way you are going to build those automatism, so basically repeating the same thing without thinking, is first of all, changing your mindset toward talking. Because when you're going to meet your first native and start to speak, you will probably feel a lot of pressure, because for the first time, you're going to have someone that will listen to you and will probably judge you, because it's normal. That's what humans do. When you see someone, you meet the person and you have an opinion, and you will feel that, obviously, and that would start something that will block you. Is you will feel shy, you will feel embarrassed to make mistakes, and that is what will mostly, in most of cases, prevent you from speaking. You know the grammar, you know the words, and yet you cannot do that because deep down you are scared of making mistakes. So my advice to that is like to turn those mistakes into advantages. So first of all, you need to change your mindset by telling yourself that like you are not in school anymore. You are not facing a teacher. You are not going to have someone, I will give you a grade. You are not surrounded by your friends, teenagers that are usually quite rough with each other. So no one's going to laugh at you because you made a mistake. So that's like the first thing that you need to take into account. The second thing that is really, really important is that when you talk, you will make mistake, yes or yes. It means that like those mistakes will happen, but the good thing is like through those mistakes, you will learn. Because if you don't make mistakes, you cannot know what's right or what's wrong. So whenever you make a mistake, accept it, embrace it, be happy to have made it, and consider it as a free language lesson. That is the key to progress. The more mistakes you make, if you're aware of that, the more you're going to learn. So this is like very, very important. Then again, I can understand that it can be difficult to make the step toward like being totally comfortable with your mistakes. That is fine. The thing is, like for me, I found them actually quite funny. And this is again something that will help you, because you can make yourself actually likable as a person if you just show your mistakes as something very funny. So you can just say something, maybe you realize that you'd say you got lost in your sentence, laugh about it. Make the person in front of you comfortable, saying like, you see, I make a mistake, but hey, like you can laugh with me. It's something actually funny. Maybe, you can correct me and I would be appreciated, and you will have like very positive feedback from this person. And again, it's not something that will happen overnight. Like anything with language learning, there is something that will happen over time. The more you repeat that, the more you'll see that you will feel more and more comfortable with this mistake, up to a point that you won't feel a single thing. And once you reach this moment, this is when you will really make a lot of progress. And that's like that's for me the way it worked with Japanese. At the beginning, I decided to be a clown with the Japanese that I met, and we just made a little show of the sentence that I have learned, and they would correct me. And the Japanese, they love to laugh. They are very funny people. They love to have a good time, especially with foreigners. They're very curious, and that's how I felt the confidence to get started speaking Japanese, even though deep down I felt that I'm not really good at that. So that would be like my advice for those people who, for you guys who find it hard to get started speaking. One last thing I would probably add, if you really want to, if you still feel that is kind of tricky for you to handle, go gradually. At the beginning, don't go for full frontal conversation face to face. Go online, feel comfortable to be in front of your computer. And even this is too much, start with audios, like the WhatsApp audios that you can record and exchange like this. So you have time to practice, you have time to repeat, and you have time to think of what you say. So if you do that and go gradually toward a full frontal conversation, I think you'll be on the right way. That's about me. So what do you think, Luca? Anything else to that?
Yeah, I think that there is also another step that if you're really shy, and it's not that I'm shy, but I feel more comfortable when I start with self-conversation. I know that it can seem weird. I know you're speaking to yourself. But it's very, very useful, because I think that the fact of hearing yourself speaking your target language is really rewarding. You're not afraid of being judged, and you can like have a conversation with yourself. And for me, it's always the first step, the very first step. So because the first time I spoke French after 5 months of training, I was in front of a French native speaker, and I was so nervous. So because I didn't know if you would understand me or anything else. So it was, but now I think that a very first step can be, okay, a little bit of self-conversation, repeating out loud the word, for example, the words and phrases you're learning with MosaLingua, for example, or if you're, I don't know, if you're using other trainings like Mosa series or other things, or any other tool, of course, you can use the sentences and the words you're learning to build your phrases and imagine some situations, and then you will be more confident when you will speak in front of a native speaker, of a teacher, or anyone else. So self-conversation can be also, I don't know if, how do you feel about that? Do you think it's too weird for you? Have you tried, Cédric, some self-conversation?
Oh, I do that on a regular basis, even in French, I'm kidding. No, it's true that it's not something that I do. It's not something that I do. I'd rather go straight with people, but I think it's a matter of what works for you. Like, I actually never had to try that, but again, one learner is totally different from another, and one thing will work with you and might not work with me. So yeah, but I know that people do that, and that's something that can totally work. So I can see that Mary agree with us. So I'm glad that you you find some use of our advice. And if you do this, I'm pretty sure that you can go beyond your blocks. So good luck with that. I'm pretty sure you can make it.
Okay, let's move on to the next question, which
or maybe because I see that we had a few questions about motivation. Maybe we can address that, how to keep.
Okay. It's the 5th question. You can go. You can answer if you want.
Oh well, yeah. I lost my motivation. It feels like perfect. So well, we're right on track. So what happened? I've lost my motivation. It feels like I will never make it. What am I doing wrong? So first of all, what am I doing wrong? I don't really like this question. Sounds quite negative. So you've been doing something. It's already good. So you have to remember that you've been working on this language. It's not you haven't lost your time. You've been learning things, and then it's more about you're not reaching your goals. So talking about goals, it's time to at this moment to see what are the goals that you defined. So we come back to the first the first question, how do you get started? And I said that you should define clearly your goal. So the first thing you need to do is to go back to that and see, is my goal feasible? If you decided to become level C1 in 3 months, for example, that you want to be fluent in 3 months, maybe that's not something that was realistic. So it's time to go there and see, maybe you can start to consider something that is less ambitious, and something that would probably suit your needs. You want to be bilingual, but at the end of the day, is that really what you want to do? If you want just to spend a few months abroad, no, you don't need to be bilingual. You don't need to be perfect. So it leads to this question of perfectionism that is a plague for a language learner. You cannot be perfect. This is not going to be perfect. Even right now, when I'm speaking English, sometimes I can notice that I have this bit of French accent, or I have this little mistake that keeps on creeping back. It's okay. I'm I'm fine with that. It's I don't expect to be perfect. What I really want, what I enjoy when I speak English is that like people get my point and that I can work with this language. And once I get that, I'm happy with that. I don't focus on the mistakes that I can do. So like that could be to some level. Then there is these things when you get started and you don't feel that you're going somewhere. So in this moment, like you have this goal, instead of focusing on the end goal, maybe you can instead focus on intermediate goals. So say that you want to be able to have a conversation in 6 months, like a small conversation, or you want to be able to understand an episode of your favorite TV show in 6 months. Well, maybe the first thing that you should do in order to give yourself a bit of a reward is to tell yourself, well, first I'm going to learn about like, let's say 300 words in 1 month. Like that's sizable, but that's something that is more manageable. And that's something that you can see it's going to come quicker. You know, like you only have 1 month to work. And once you reach this goal, then it's time for celebration to say, I made it. I made it. Of course, it's nothing like your initial goal to be able to understand a TV show or to have a small conversation, but that's where you get this precious motivation that will keep you going. And from this, you can jump to the next goal, saying that, well, now, you know, I want to be able to either send an audio to a native and for him to understand me. So that would be like you give you like yourself like 15 days for that. So you really work only on this. And once you get this goal, you get again this moment of rewarded, and you'll be happy and you'll be motivated to go forward. So that's really a question of expectations and perfectionism. So get away from perfectionism. You will never be perfect. We are human beings. This is not like hard science. Language is something that is very elusive. And that's the reason why perfectionism will never work. You learn a language all your life. With even like like I'm French, and I'm still learning things in French, even though I'm 40-year-old. So perfectionism is not a thing. And then the second thing is manage your expectation. Don't think of the big picture right now. Think of little goals, little baby steps. And whenever you reach one of your mini goals, then it's time to celebrate and tell yourself that you made it, you're good at languages, you can do it. Anything that you want to add on this, Luca?
Yeah, so I think it's something which is very common to lose some of your motivation, which is very, very important, because we like to repeat that motivation is like the fuel of learning and the fuel to learn a language. And so that's very common. You're not the only one. If you ran out of a motivation. And well, what I observed that it's from time to time, it's good to remind yourself why you started. Well, first of all, you should have a strong motivation to learn a language, because, you know, it's a journey lasting 3, 6, 12 months, even more. So if you write it down, maybe you already told that, Cédric. So if you write down on paper your motivation, it would be good from time to time to read aloud what you wrote. So like that, you know, you will remind yourself why you started in the first place. And yeah, so you should have in mind and try to visualize the desired result that you have. For example, if you're learning because you want to travel, you should imagine yourself, you should picture yourself where you want to travel. So like, I don't know, Spain, in Italy, where speaking Spanish or Italian, and this can really help. Of course, you can for a couple of weeks even. I think that it's normal that if you do not feel motivated for 1 week, 10 days, but then you should get back on track and fill again your tank of motivation and start again. So I think we should not blame ourselves if we, from time to time, we had these periods where we feel less motivated. And I would like to say that we are also here for that. So our emails, our YouTube videos, so please subscribe, because I think one of the most important things of our YouTube channel is that, okay, we give a lot of tips and hacks to learn languages, but it's like a dose of motivation that you can receive from time to time. We will probably host other live sessions. So if you subscribe, you will get reminders and you will know about that. Or we are preparing a lot of nice videos. So subscribe also to get a regular dose of motivation. Okay, so that's what I wanted to add. I don't know if we
Yeah,
take
just
live.
one little thing as well I would add on the topic, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead. Sure.
Yeah, it's something like that I remember that I was suffering from when I was learning English. I was in England. I was an exchange student back then, long time ago, and I noticed that like some days I could speak English the way I wanted, and it was perfect. Or I could understand this movie, and I was like, "Wow, I'm amazed! I made like so much progress." And the very next day, or a couple of days later, I would have a conversation. I would be like unable to speak and making a lot of mistakes. Or then I would watch a movie and I was like, oh, I don't understand. I don't get it. What's wrong with me? And I remember that was those moments when I was doubting. I was starting to lose motivation. I was like, what am I doing? What is wrong with me? And then with experience, I noticed that it's a normal thing, because we are like, language is like related to ourselves. We are human beings, and we are not like regular in our state. You know, we have like swinging moods. We have one day we feel good, one day we don't feel the same. Is the same with your language skills. There will be some day you will be thinking of something else, or you'll be affected by your environment, and this will affect your language skills. So if you have a few bad days in your practice, or a few things that you thought that you could handle and you didn't, it's normal. It happens to everyone. Some people like handle it better, but like if you feel that like sometime you thought that you could speak and you couldn't, it's normal. It's just a temporary thing. It's just because it's not your day. And when it's like this, just don't think too much about that. It's normal. Just keep in mind that like over time, you are going the right way. And if you really still doubt, look back. Just think about the moment you were like 3 months ago, 6 months ago, 1 year ago. Compare, keep track. And if you see what I see, you'll see that like you made progress. Yes or yes.
Okay, great. Thanks for this dose of motivation and good tips. Okay, so we have so we can go back to question number 4. Can I learn 2 languages at the same time? This is a question which is very recurrent among beginners. And so first of all, I would say maybe sometimes it's better to focus on one language, especially if you're just starting, or you have not you have not mastered any language. So maybe it would be better to focus on one language and then to start the other ones, because if I know that at the beginning you're so motivated, you want to learn, I don't know, 5, 10. I would like to learn so many languages, but let's be honest. So we don't have so much time. Little introduction, so it was important to say that. But yes, I think the short answer is that yes, it's possible to learn 2 languages at the same time. I even recorded, I think, 2 videos. You can find them on our YouTube channel to answer the question. So I'm in the video, I really go deep and I explain what you need to do to learn 2 languages at the same time. But the first question for me is it really a good idea to learn 2 languages at the same time? In my opinion, it depends. So first, I'll try to give a very short answer. It depends if you have a lot of time. So of course, if you can spend 1 hour, 2 hours per day learning languages, okay, that's fine. You have time. Yeah, that's totally fine. If you have 20 minutes then please just learn one language, because already 20 minutes is really I think it's enough, but it's not like you're spending so much time to learn a language. Then it's a matter of motivation. You should be very motivated to learn both languages, because at the beginning it will be easy, and as we said, as Cédric said, little by little your motivation can go down. You will have better you will have good period, bad periods. So you really need a lot of motivation to learn two languages at the same time. And then it's also a matter of organization. You really need to organize yourself in a very efficient way. So for example, you should say, okay, from Monday to Friday, I'm learning a language. During the weekends, I'm learning another one, or any other rule. But you should be, or maybe in the morning you're learning language one, in the evenings you're learning language two. So these kind of things. And a couple of very quick tips is, do not choose two languages that are too similar. I know that is counterintuitive, but I know so many people who want to learn, for example, Italian and Spanish at the same time. At the beginning, it's very confusing. So of course, you're learning vocabulary very fast because it's very similar. But then when you have to speak, it will be very frustrating, because you will end up repeating por supuesto instead of certo, for example, in Italian. So it will be like, very, very confusing, because when you're a beginner, you will confuse the languages. Maybe I would choose an easier language and a more difficult language. So for example, Italian and Japanese, or I don't know, Mandarin Chinese and English. And then I will apply the Pareto principle, saying that, for example, I will spend 80% of my time learning the language, which is the priority to me, and the remaining 20% for the other language. So I would not split 50-50. I would say, okay, one language is the priority. So I will spend 80% of my time learning that language, and 20% I will learn the other language. So that's possible, but there are some pitfalls. There are, you need to be very careful with that if you really want to do it. I don't know, Cédric. I tried, just to add, I tried once. I think with Romanian and Spanish, and that's why which are very similar. And I can say that at the beginning, it was very frustrating, because instead of saying, for example, for the automated, you have those answers which are very, like you are on autopilot when you see, for example, yes, no, and I was saying all the time when I was speaking Spanish, I was saying da, instead of C. So even if it's closer to my native language, because in Italian it's C, but it was frustrating. Possible, but you need to be careful. Cédric, I don't know, what is your opinion?
No, I totally agree with what you said. But I had like the same experience, and as a French, I tried to learn Italian and Spanish, and trying to dedicate the same amount of time for both. And I remember like Italian was taking over Spanish, because I was actually learning at school at this moment. And yeah, so yeah, it's for me, that's not something that I liked. I only did it again not so long ago. I introduced a bit of Catalan, because I live in an area where Catalan is spoken. But for me, it was not like, the goal was just to have fun. To discover the language. I didn't want it to speak it. I didn't want it to understand it. I just wanted to discover this language and just satisfy my curiosity. In this way, I enjoyed my experience. If I think I'm still improving my Spanish at the moment, but if I started to have like a more serious goal with Catalan, then I would run into the same problem that you described. Meaning that like whenever I would try to speak Spanish, I would be basically dropping a bit of if I wanted to speak Catalan, sorry, I would be dropping a bit of Spanish here and there, and make the whole thing a complete salad of a language. So yeah, that's about it. And yeah, I just noticed that there's a very interesting question from Daddy's Burrow that says, what is a sign that you can say for yourself that you're acceptably fluent in a language. It's for me, like in my opinion, fluent is very vague. It's very vague. So it really depends what you describe fluent. If you're able to get by. So if you're in a conversation, you don't pull out saying like, I don't know what to say. I don't know how to describe that. But for me, like you're fluent when you're able to convey the meaning of what you want to say, even though it's riddled with mistakes, or that you're not using the right words, that instead of saying a house, you say something like, oh, you know, the thing I live in, and they say, yeah, a house. People get you. For me, you are fluent. But like, I think what really, when I consider myself as fluent in a language, I would say that's when I start to enjoy speaking it. That's when even like it's not perfect, or even sometimes I don't convey the meaning of what I want to say, but still, if I'm enjoying the moment and I feel confident that I can go out there and speak it, yeah, that's where I consider myself fluent. So there's not like a specific definition for this, but I think it depends on your experience. But you can probably use those two references to make you an idea.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's very tricky to define fluency. In my opinion, I really like to, you know, if you go back to the roots of the word fluency, I think it comes from Latin, I think fluo, and it's when, for example, a river flows. So the verb is flow, and I like to think that you are fluent when the conversation flows. So meaning that, as Cédric said, you know, you can communicate, you can understand the other people you're speaking to, and the conversation flows. So it's not that you have to stop a lot of pauses. And it's very difficult to have this conversation. You can of course you can make mistakes. You can have some hesitations, but overall, to me, when you are fluent, the conversation flows. So meaning that you can express your thoughts and you can understand what you're being told in a way that flows. So, you know, like a river flows without too many, you know, interruptions and problems and issues. And maybe when you're not a burden for the other speaker. So when you know, because if every time you are asking, it's perfectly fine to ask, can you repeat, can you speak more slowly? But of course, when you are at this stage, I think that you are more in a beginner, low intermediate stage. But when you're fluent, I think that you are in a stage where you can, even if you don't have a word, you're missing a word, but you can convey what you want to say in a more fluent way. So that's why it's fluent, and it's related to fluency. Okay. Then we have another question, which is very interesting. Karin or Karin, I don't know. So Karin is saying, how can I improve my comprehension, so my listening comprehension, because I would like to speak English one day. So I don't know, Cédric, if you want to go first.
Yeah, sure, of course. Well, as I said at the beginning, understanding and speaking are two different things. So I think like the core of the question is understanding. Like, how do you get to understand and improve your understanding of a language? So this has to be done through what we call immersion. You have to be immersed in your language, and this is done through many things. So mostly you have to introduce the language in your everyday life. So it can be, well, we have like loads of articles on the blog about immersions and little techniques to do that. It can be just as simple as switching your mobile phone into the language. So that like, if you want to learn Italian, you set your phone into Italian. You can do the same with your computer. You can change your habits as well. So obviously, when you're going to spend some time on YouTube to relax, well, maybe make it a little bit more challenging and start to put, instead of having like only videos in your language, 1 or 2 in Italian at the beginning, just very short ones. and then you build up gradually. But for me, really the best way to improve your understanding is to start to watch TV shows and movies in the language that you want to learn. So that might seem a bit daunting at the beginning, like a little bit scary, but it doesn't have to be like that. So, well, there's like a few things that you can do in order to make it easier. So first of all, obviously, subtitles. But then with subtitles, there is something that you need to know. You are not going to learn much if you stick to subtitles in your own language. So you will have very quickly to set them in the original language. So say you want to learn English, you watch a movie in English, the subtitle have to be in English at some point. You can start obviously like maybe 1 week or 2 weeks with French in order to get a feel of the language, to pay attention more to the noise, to tone, to the pronunciation, this kind of thing. But very quickly you will have to introduce the subtitles in English, in the original language. Then you might say, yes, but I don't understand a single thing. And of course, it can be complicated. But then if you have like YouTube or Netflix or something like that, you will notice that there are some options in the play bar where you can slow down the speed. And then that's where, things get interesting, because you can watch a TV show where the person speaks very fast with a strong accent. And once you say like divide the speed by 2, like you go for 50% of the speed or 75%, 50% sometimes is a bit, sounds a bit dumb, like the character doesn't sound real. But 75% is totally acceptable. And you have a feeling that the person, instead of speaking normally, is actually articulating to you. So for you as a learner, you like, all right, you have like this moments. Like many words will appear more understandable, and they will appear like reachable, like easy for you to get. So then it's just a matter to play with this item, obviously like doing a lot of pause and come back if you still are not too sure. And you keep on doing this, so you are a little bit more active when you watch your movies. Of course, don't make it like a whole exercise. Don't make it like, don't punish yourself. You're still watching a movie. You have to enjoy what you're doing. Don't do it like all over the movie, because maybe the person that will watch the movie next to you will find you a little bit annoying. Obviously, you do that on your own. But that's like a few things that you could do to really start to get the language. And the more you do this, obviously, you can also note the new words as well, now and then. And the more you do this, you'll see that like you will develop an ear for that. You can do this with movies. There's also music. If you can find music in the target language as well, you can find the lyrics online. And again, you can slow down the stream. You can check the lyrics, do a bit of study, and then the more you repeat that, the more you immerse yourself in the language, the more your ear will improve. And my last tip would be either, well, it could be like a bit boring, but watch the same TV show several times. Or if you don't feel like watching, if you're like me and you don't like to watch a movie that you already seen, well then maybe like you can probably. Sorry, I get confused. I didn't mean to say that, but like it's watch something that you watched a long time ago that you know the story, or like read a bit about the movie that you're going to watch. It's going to be a bit of a spoiler, so it's going to ruin a bit the pleasure. But if you watch something that you already have an idea what it's all about, your ear will your brain will be less focused on trying to get the meaning, and your ear will be more focused on the language itself. So if you know the story of a movie or of a TV show, or it's something that you watched a long time ago and you know roughly what it's about, that's like what you want to watch in order to improve your understanding.
Okay, great. There is a question, and sorry, your nickname is very long. Dive my lol. So, and it's about the languages that we are going to add. So if we will focus on the most important languages, or we will add other minority languages. Okay, so first of all, I would like to say that we already covered the most studied languages in the world. I think that we're missing Japanese and Arabic, but still, these are niche languages, because what we found, well, it was not a big surprise, but what we realized that when we launched the app to learn Russian and then also Brazilian Portuguese, is that those languages, these are languages which are very popular, but there are, compared to Spanish, English, Italian, and so on, there are fewer people learning those languages. So I think we already covered them. Now I think Japanese and Arabic are the most popular languages out there in terms of people studying these languages. And we, in any case, we are not launching, we are launching them with one reason in mind, because one of our missions is to share the love for languages, and we really like languages, teaching language, and so on. So we also want to cover languages which are studied by fewer people. That's why I think we will not stop there. So the project is to add at least one language every year. Of course, we are not going to have 30 languages, but we said, we discussed very recently about that with Cédric, that among about 14 languages would be really nice to have. We will get there, I don't know when, but it's so we will cover also those languages. I know, for example, that we got some requests for Dutch, but I'm sure that very few people will start learning Dutch with us. There are other people who want to learn Polish and Norwegian, and so we will study that. And the process of adding a new language is quite time-consuming, and there is also, we also need to listen to our learners. So that's why we are. So we had the same poll on Instagram. Japanese, I think, was the first the languages picked by our Instagram followers. Now I see that Japanese is a very good position. No, 51, and also we have other polls out there. So that's why we are listening to you, and also we are studying. There are several parameters and several criteria. Then there is another question, I think, that you will very happy to answer, Cédric, is it better to watch series in the so it's Xavier, so thank you very much for your question, Xavier. Is it better to watch series in the target language with subtitles or without subtitles?
Yeah, I gave a beginning of an answer on the chat room, so I will share it with everyone. So for me, I think it's just a matter of how on your level of energy at this moment, because I would say, obviously, avoid the subtitle in your own language, and if you have to go for subtitles, go for original version. And yeah, I would say that you can spend quite some time with the subtitles, so that not only you will be improving your immersion, you'll be reading a lot in the language, and you will also make the connection between the pronunciation and the spelling. This is very important, because especially with a language like English, that decided that it's not going to be written the way it's pronounced, unfortunately, unlike Spanish or Italian, that makes it easy. So I think it's interesting to spend some time to consider that, I am going to stick to subtitles, and then gradually, one day, once you feel like I'm ready for that, I'm going to give myself 30 seconds or 1 minute. I'm going to switch off the subtitles and dip your toes and see how it's and come back to the subtitles, just for a short time, just to see how it's like. Because, as I said, the most important thing is obviously motivation. is to so you will keep on being motivated if you're doing something that is fun, that catch your attention, that you enjoy doing it. So if you see that like it's going to be a bit complicated without subtitles, not a problem. Switch back to subtitles and enjoy the rest of your show. And next time, try again, maybe a little bit longer every time. Go back to the subtitles and so on. So the idea is to go gradual on this. And the more you do it, the more you'll see, actually, I could stay a little bit longer without subtitles. The thing is, there's one thing that is very important is that once you have no subtitles, you have less clue on what you're supposed to understand. So you have to develop the skill of understanding without listening. That's how I call it. Is basically try to guess the meaning of what you hear of some words based on the context, based on what you see, what you know about the history, how the character is feeling, or how he looks, if he's angry or not. Obviously, this will lead you a little bit more with toward the meaning of what's happening. So it's very important when you go without subtitles, not to focus on words, but focus on the general meaning, what's happening here. And you'll see that, like, if you pay attention to the scene, to the characters, to whatever is happening in the action, that you will start to draw connections between what you're hearing, some words, and like what you and what's happening. So at the beginning, it's just like a general idea. But you'll see that with time, it'll get more precise and more precise. And at the end, you'll see that like you can go without subs or with subs. At the end, it's once you feel that you can watch an entire show or an entire movie without subs, then subtitles will become something that will hinder you, something that will prevent you from making more progress. So once you're ready to go for one show without subtitles, then do it. And keep it as a habit.
Okay, so I think we're it's the end of the live session, because we agreed with Cédric to have 1 hour of live session. Of course, you can add your question in the comment section. I think it will not be possible anymore to add question in the chat, because we tried with Cédric testing the platform, but you can add a comment. I don't know if you noticed, if you're already used to our to visiting our YouTube channel, we answer to all the questions. And so we because, well, our first goal is to help you. And so if you have other question, if you know some question pops up, go ahead, pose the question, because we will it will be our pleasure to answer and to help you. Okay, I also answer to a question from Valerie in the chat about the English Academy. And yeah, that's all. I don't know if you want to add something to Cédric.
Very quickly. If I would like to say something to Julia Cono, who mentioned something like about motivation when you are facing personal reasons. If you have issues in your personal life, well, my opinion is that it's probably not the best step, the best state to focus on learning a language. So you will not have like all your attention dedicated to other things, and you can see that it can also affect your work or your social activities, something like that. So obviously, it's very important to focus on your personal situation in order to fix it, and just maybe like set the language learning aside, and try to work on a better state of mind to get back to it, and not to lose the motivation in between. Just write somewhere like your goals from before, because when you come back from a personal ordeal and you get back to your goal, and all the meaning that you had in your learning will come back at this moment. So the priority is always your life, like your circumstances, but always keep a reminder of why you were learning language before you break. That's my that's basically like, also I went through some bad things in my life, and that's always what I've done, like to go back to language learning or any activity that I love to do.
Okay, great. So thank you very much for joining us for this live session. I hope that you liked it and you found it useful. Yeah, so it was a pleasure to answer to your questions. And well, if I some little words for the end is just, just learn a language, do something every day. If you want to learn a language, don't get discouraged. I know that sometimes it's hard, but if you do if you study a little bit every day, in the long run you will get there. I know that I struggled a lot to learn English, and for example, in terms of listening comprehension, it was very hard. And then one day, after practicing every day and listening to a lot of audio material, one day there was a switch, and I also figured out how to learn. And so you will get there, and don't get discouraged, and do little steps every day, like also Cédric said, and you will get there. So I really want to, and it's so nice to learn languages at it doesn't matter the level, but the feeling that you have when you're expressing your thoughts in a foreign language, even if you're ordering at the restaurant, it's so rewarding that I really have to encourage you how learn languages, because it's fun, and it's so nice. So Rick, do you want to add something?
Yeah, I'd like to say a little thing to just like to illustrate the state of mind that you should have, like toward motivation, is that, like, for example, right now I would love to have like Cédric when he was 17-year-old and doubting that he could ever speak English, and seeing so that, like, show him that, like, right now is making this live YouTube with you, with great people, and all in English. And I want to show him, see, if you keep on working hard on your English, you can get to that level. And that's what I want to convey to everyone, is that it's possible. That's something I shared with you during this week, where we had a little meeting, and I told you about my personal story, that, like, my parents are coming from Algeria, so they speak Arabic, and all my brothers and sisters speak Arabic in my family, and I'm the only one, for some reason, that never managed to speak a word of the language. And yet, like, I'm here and I'm talking about, like, learning languages. There is no such thing as a gift for languages. It doesn't exist. I'm the living proof. And it's just a matter of motivation, a bit of work, and mostly having fun with it. That's about it. And then if you have these three things in your hands, anyone can do it, and you will do it. That's about it.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. It's a very nice conclusion. So thank you very much once again. Have a good evening. And also, some people will watch the replay. So thank you also to all the other, but thanks a lot for those who were live with us tonight. Thank you very much, and see you soon. And we hope to see you soon in another occasion.
All right. See you soon. Happy learning, and bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Happy learning.